order public hearing for fiscal year 2016 budget. Council, you've had months of opportunity to discuss and work on our budget. I'm going to give the floor over to Town Manager Frank Schaeffer due to the fact that he's worked long and hard on putting our budget, which I think is a great budget, together. Frank, if you want to do the highlights.
Okay, just quickly, the operating budget for the general fund is $696,500. That's $81,000, almost $82,000 increase over FY 2015. It does propose a 5-cent per hundred tax increase, which would take the tax rate to 0.2615. That creates about $62,500 in additional revenue for the town. Our income tax revenue is projected to increase by $13,000. We expect our cell tower revenue to increase by $15,500, and our town-county agreement contribution is going to be decreased by about $13,000 to pay for our share of the stormwater management mitigation projects. Overall, we have a 3% increase in electricity. We have a $5,300 increase in snow removal. The last 2 years, the cost of snow removal has just seriously outstripped our budget by a lot. Most of that went into salt. We spent like $16,000 on salt this year. We increased the street and sidewalk maintenance budget by $5,000. We're going to transfer $70,000 to the capital budget for road projects. There's a 40-cent per hour salary adjustment for our public works and office staff. And we have a $3,000 increase in our waste disposal services. That's our operating budget. Our capital budget, we have a $15,000 carryover from FY15. We were spending $67,000 on street projects, repaving, resurfacing projects. And we also have $40,000 for a ball field project, $35,000 of which comes from POS matching funds. So that's our general fund. On our water sewer budget, it's a $920,000 budget with a $46,000 increase. Per the rate schedule, the base charges will increase by $6 and usage charges will increase by 5%. 3% increase in electricity. We have $10,000 additional for our USDA loan for our wastewater pumping station projects. We're getting 2 new pumping stations that are being built. There's a $5,000 increase in sludge disposal and a $4,000 increase in the MES budget. And we're also, in the capital budget, we're funding $77,000 for our water meter upgrade project. We're doing the first phase of that right now. We're converting to a radio read system, which will allow us to read the meters literally, and within a few hours, where it now takes over 3 days. Technology-wise, the technology we have, we've been informed, like with many computer systems, after this year it will no longer be supported, so we would be basically phased out, so you're kind of forced to upgrade. So we spent $12,000 this year to get started on it, and we have another $77,000 in the upcoming year to finish that project. So that's the recap, Mayor. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Council? You worked hard on this as well, made some tough decisions. For the future, it's looking brighter. To the citizens, anyone have any comments or questions on the budget? Hearing or seeing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn the hearing?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Palsgrove, seconded by Councilman Null, to close the hearing for the fiscal year 16 budget. Now, call to order for the Town of New Windsor Town Council meeting for May 6, 2015. If everyone would rise with me. Prior to joining with me in the Pledge of Allegiance, if everyone could join with me in a moment of silence at the passing of former businessman and former town councilman Roland Buddy Strasburg. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our meetings are recorded electronically. We go by an agenda. Anyone wishing to speak at tonight's meeting, we ask you to sign up over by our clerk treasurer, Donna Albin. Anyone wishing to have anything on the agenda for the meeting should have had it to our town hall by 3 o'clock on the last Wednesday of the month. Before you, you have the minutes from the April 1st, 2015 meeting. Tab 3, Donna has sent them out twice to everyone. Do I hear a motion for improvement or additions or corrections?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Smith, seconded by Councilman Null, to approve the minutes from the April 1st, 2015 Town Council meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, so carried. Council committee reports, Public Works, Councilman Huffman.
Yes, on 25 April, we had the bulk trash in town. That was very successful. There was a steady stream of town residents utilizing that service, so it was very good that we held that. Next one will probably be in September.
October.
October, okay, it'll be in October. Public Works will continue to pick up yard waste on the first and third Wednesday through October. That's all.
Thank you. Any questions for Councilman Huffman? All right. Water and Sewer, Councilman Palsgrove.
I'm going to defer to some technology and put a few pictures up on the screen for us to look at
All right.
real quickly. Hopefully real quickly. Technology works here.
There you go.
Okay, first I'm just going to show a couple of real quick pictures so that you get an idea of what's going on with the two wastewater lift stations that are being replaced. This is the sign that's out in front of the one at Main Street. This is the Code Drive lift station. Both of the wet wells are in, and they're forming up now. They're forming up now for the structures that will enclose those areas. The next two pictures are the Main Street lift station. That kind of shows you, although the footprint of the project when it's done isn't going to be very big, but to mobilize and get all the equipment in there, it makes for a pretty big footprint there. And that's what the wet wells look like. Now, the next several pictures, we've talked in the last couple months about the water line survey and about the fact that there's a place out there where a water line has been exposed due to some erosion in the stream. And Jack took me out to the site yesterday, and I took several pictures. So we go out Route 31 towards Liberty Town, about 2 miles, and turn into the farm lane where Ralph Basler has his farm there, and drive down the lane and then wind around through the grass. This is in Jack's four-wheel drive truck. Wind around through the grass and everything, and then he parks, and then we're going to walk down this hill towards the stream, and these are out of order. This isn't the order I wanted to be in, but this is what the exposed pipe is looking like at the edge of the stream where erosion has taken place. And I'm not sure what order these are going to be in. It's quite an ideal setting. It's very nice and quiet and peaceful down there, but the pipe, which you see right along in through here, that's not such a pretty picture. The blue stakes, there are several of them in this area, and those delineate where the pipe is. And in one situation, this tree, which is, this picture really doesn't do it justice. The tree is bigger than what it looks like. It is right over the top of our pipe. which runs right through this area here. I have a couple of other pictures. Now we're back to there. Anyway, they didn't come in the order I wanted them to, but you get the idea in regards to what we're looking for, what we're looking at with the problem with the pipe. And one of the biggest problems is that in this area, it's not very easy to get to with equipment. We don't even think we can get 10-wheel trucks in there. So to be able to stabilize the pipe might be a lot of small trips and something a lot smaller. Jack and Frank are working on.
Commissioner, Councilman, could you go back to the one that's kind of linear view that's showing up the stream? I think that one there, I mean, that area between the pipe, which is that, and the edge of the stream is 4 or 5 feet maybe, and it's just not much space to work.
Right.
You know, if you think about putting in a retaining wall or anything to stabilize that, you're right up against the stream, and downstream from this, looking downstream, that right there on that one, the incised area is, I would say that's 8 feet high in there. And those trees are ready to fall into the stream. And so it's an area where if we get into a stream restoration project, it's not going to be a cheap or easy fix. And we're trying to we want to stay out of that and focus on our pipeline, but I think we're going to get drug into that, just because of the way things are there.
So that's what I wanted to share. It probably raises more questions than anything else, but I just wanted the council and the citizens to be aware of what we're going to have to deal with here. And like Frank says, it's not going to be a cheap fix.
Were there any other surprises in the mapping of the line?
The distance,
Well, the distance isn't nearly as great as what we had thought. It's about 2 1/4 out to Bower Sox and maybe another 1 1/4 up to Denning, so it's 3 1/2 maybe as opposed to 5 all the way out to Dennings.
4 instead of 5.
3 1/2 instead of 5. But, I don't know, Jack, I don't know there were any real surprises. I think the real surprise was those guys did such a good job for us and found their way through some really tough conditions.
No houses built over it or...
No houses on it,
Barns
no. I think the biggest surprise was the one you saw.
and the cost for that,
Free.
free. Just let everybody know that was free to have that surveyed, so.
That's because we are a member of the Maryland, I can't even say it, Maryland Rural Water Association. It's
Right.
hard to say.
And that's probably not one of the worst pictures of walking through thorns and
Oh, no.
bushes and everything else they had to do. So they did an outstanding job for us. Anything else? Any questions for Councilman Palsgrove? Public Safety, Councilman Null.
First mention that the Planning Commission did meet in April, and tonight is a joint Planning Commission meeting with the County Planning Commission and the Municipality Planning Commission, so I think we'll have a good report on that next meeting. Nothing really coming before the Planning Commission except some housekeeping issues. Public Safety, Corporal Towson is unable to be here tonight, so if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and give his report now. The Sheriff's Department handled 107 incidents or calls for service in April. Nothing major, couple disorderly conduct. We did have a juvenile who was in house arrest who cut off his ankle bracelet and ran away. They were able to find him. He issued 32 citations and warnings during the month for traffic violations. And we recently purchased a speed radar sign, which will be, it's movable. We're going to move it around town. It's able to track and monitor speeds and give us reports. So as we move it around town, we can see, what our problem areas are. Oftentimes, when we get a complaint, Mark goes and sets up, runs the speed radar, and they're all at or under the speed limit. Of course, he's sitting there, so we're hoping that this helps. So we'll be doing that sometime, probably over the summer, once we get everything up and running.
And
That's all I
has
have.
messages
Yeah,
you put on.
we can use it for Public Works as safety messages as they're working out in the streets. So it's a versatile piece of equipment.
All right. Anything else, sir?
Nope.
Any questions for Councilman Null? One of these days, somebody's going to get a question. Economic Development, Councilwoman Schultz.
I don't have any bad news to report about pipes or anything like that, so that's good. I don't really have anything economic development related, but I just did want to mention that Mayor Roop had mentioned my name to, there's a board called the Human Services Program.
Bob Miller,
Bob Miller, he's the chair.
Human Services Program of Carroll County.
Right, and it's a board of volunteer members who represent different parts of the community, and one of the requirements is that someone, I think it's 30% of the members have to be elected officials, and there wasn't any representation from New Windsor, from this part of the county on the board. So I applied, and they agreed to have me on the board, so I attended the first meeting a couple of weeks ago, so should be very interesting.
Great.
One of the things that they do is that they coordinate the funds for all the human services programs in the county so that there isn't duplication of funding for services. So I think it's a great organization, so I'm pleased to be on it.
It's also good to have a voice from New Windsor, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Anything else?
Nope, that's all.
Any questions for Councilwoman Schultz? I thought somebody would. Community Enhancement, Councilman Smith.
We have the town concerts coming up. We've decided to move them this year. Instead of having them every Sunday in August, we are actually going to spread them out over the course of July and August and have them every other week. One of the reasons for that is we had a couple rainouts last year, having them right behind one another, and this gives us a little bit of wiggle room with that. We also are going to incorporate with and partner up with the Heritage Committee to do a ice cream social with one of the concerts. I'm hoping to obtain the services of the Old Line Statesman for that particular day, mainly because I think that goes hand in hand with the ice cream social theme of it all. Still be held down at Lions Park. So that's in the planning stages. We also may have vendors or sponsors for the concerts this year to try to offset some of the costs of that. I have found out that a lot of the entertainment bands or groups have raised their prices, with the single exception of Pet Rock, they have raised their prices, but not for us because they've been here for 8 years running, so they're not going to raise their prices for us. So I'm kind of weighing which ones to go with. I know which ones will work, which ones have been very successful, but they may be pricing themselves out of the business before too long. So I'm weighing that all out. But we are going to look for sponsorships, I think, this year, and then with teaming up with the Heritage Committee for the ice cream social, I think it's going to bring some new energy to it. I had the privilege of DJing the Lions May Day at the Firegrounds, and there wasn't a lot of vendors there, but from what I understand, the town was kind of festive with people walking around town for the yard sale portion of it, and a lot of people came down for those old-time cars that were there. So everybody, the Lions Club that was involved in it, I thank them for that, because that gets the buzz going about what we could have going on here. And from what I understand, it was pretty successful as far as the amount of people that turned out for the yard sales. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Councilman Smith?
And I'd like to thank Councilman Smith for his help with on behalf of
It
Lions.
was my
It
privilege.
yeah, from what I understand, it was that we had a good turnout, everybody's pretty pleased, so
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you.
And with the older cars, your oldies music, which is my favorite music, really, I heard a lot of compliments on that,
Well,
so.
they originally asked.
Theme.
They originally asked for country music, and then I started seeing the types of cars that were there, and I went, I have a feeling doo-wop is going to do a little better in country music. So we made a quick adjustment, and when the lady that was sitting in front of me didn't complain about the noise being too loud, and she was dancing, I said, then we must be on to something good here. So thank you. It was my privilege.
Before I get to my mayor's report, I wanted to sidestep that report a little bit to recognize two individuals with us tonight. One is former Maryland delegate Donald Elliott. Thank you for being here again tonight. Last year, Don was here to receive a plaque for his dedication and service and hard work for the town of New Windsor. Don was responsible for $2.5 million grants, supplemental grants that helped offset our wastewater treatment plant loan, and we greatly appreciate your assistance with that. So thank you again. And the other individual at the time was Senator David R. Brinkley, but now he has the honor of being Secretary of Budget and Management for the state of Maryland. So Secretary, Mr. Secretary, if you would come up forward. Now, there's a little history behind this. Last year, when we had the plaque, that time Senator Brinkley was out on the campaign trail and wasn't able to be here. And then one month, I couldn't find the plaque because we were restoring a room and everything got stored away, and I couldn't find it. Wasn't where I thought it was. And then 3 months ago, it seems like you were busy in Annapolis working on a budget, which you can talk about it a little bit if you want, but we are here tonight, and I would read this, and as I said a year ago, Senator David R. Brinkley is recognized as an outstanding friend of the town of New Windsor to acknowledge exceptional effort and dedication on behalf of the citizens of New Windsor. Thank you. Thank you. In the secondary, the former senator was instrumental as well, working with Delegate Elliott at the time and securing those grants as well. So we greatly appreciate it. Thank you. If you want to have
Smile
a
for
few
the
words.
picture here. There we go. Thank you. I mean, this is almost 12 months to the day. That's pretty good. But I certainly appreciate the honor and the years that I represented this area with Don. It certainly is an honor. Something I'll look back and cherish. I've enjoyed riding my bike here through town. I've enjoyed, we came out for the groundbreaking to get the new roadway fixed up and everything else that's going on. And, you know, funny thing happened on the way here. I lost an election. But I guess I'm here to prove there's life after that. And when the new governor asked for my help, I told him, I said, Governor, you know, look, my interest is in helping you and helping the state. I don't need the job, but if there's something I can do to help you out, I certainly will. And so when he asked me to be the budget secretary, it was quite an honor. It was the last announcement that he had, and that was deliberate. We walked out in the hallway, literally, and he said, you're going to hear lots of congratulations. I want to be the first one to say condolences, because you got the toughest job there is. And it certainly has been a challenge, but working, you know, in the shadow of Bus Smelser, when he was the senator beforehand, he certainly kept driving the point, then I spent 11 years on the Budget and Tax Committee, and now I'm on the other side from the executive point of view. And our challenge is certainly ensuring that the governor is successful. His intention is to try to help municipalities. We did put in money to help with the highway user revenues. To move forward on that regard, we wanted to make sure the formulas are addressed. We're certainly still focused on your concerns and issues with the water improvements that you have, and we'll make sure that some things happen in that regard. But at the same time, we want to go back to the concept of One Maryland. We're excited about our successes when you look at Montgomery County and some of the areas and the largesse we've gotten from federal spending, but we also have to pay attention to the urban areas and the rural areas, and recognize that each has its own needs. And you saw with the crisis that we had in Baltimore, we couldn't be more proud with how we were able to step up, and he in particular was able to step up, take control of a situation which was very, very hazardous, and rally support to do what's best for, you know, in that particular situation for that community, ensure the safety of their people and certainly property was what we could. And then I think we're looking forward now to trying to revitalize and make sure that they can be successful. He withdrew the state of emergency today. Yesterday we met with him we authorized $20 million to come from the rainy day fund to help offset the expenses. And for you to put it in perspective, the state's costs on that were $1.2 million per day. We had overtime that we had to cough up with the state police. We had 190 troopers come in from New Jersey, or check that, 150 from New Jersey, 190 from the state of Pennsylvania that we deputized. So we certainly have some work ahead of us. But I love coming to this town. Don and I are going to go grab some dinner afterwards. And as I was driving up here, I just reached out to my friend and said, hey, I got to come to New Windsor. Why don't we get together? And so it certainly is a lot of fun, and I appreciate the honor. Neal, thanks for he's been persistent. He'd come in November. I'm like, well, funny thing happened. We won an election in November, and now I'm on the transition. Can you come in December? Well, I can't really do that. We're putting together the budget. And then certainly when it was crafted, to put it in perspective, or for you to be aware, the governor submitted his budget 48 hours after being inaugurated. But we had to have that budget to the printer before Christmas. And so that was a full 4 weeks before. And then when the Board of Public Works took action, reducing lots of state spending, we had to pull parts of it back from the printer, because that took place January 7th, and have it basically redone. So it certainly has been a challenge, but certainly also an honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mr. Secretary, before you leave, what's that? Yeah. I'd just like to thank you for all your accomplishments on the state level in both capacities, but also we'd like for you to relay a message to the governor that we greatly appreciate his leadership. I think that has been just phenomenal working with both sides, and it hasn't been easy, but I think he's shown the people of Maryland, like you said, a one Maryland, and we just want that message relayed to him. So if you would do that, greatly appreciate it.
I'll share it with him tomorrow.
And Don, if you'd like to have any words, the floor is yours.
No, I would only like to say one thing, and that is, this is David's night, but David has been a part of New Windsor all the time that he's been in office. He worked with me all the time on doing whatever he could in the legislature in respect to the needs of this town. And for that, he certainly should be honored.
Thank you.
Very deserving.
Thank you.
Good luck. With your permission, I'd like to leave.
Absolutely.
I know it's been a long day for you, so
Contribute to your economy.
that's fine.
That's great.
That's fine. Thank you again. All right, Mayor's report, go to tab 5. The Dealman Inn feasibility study, Frank and I met with Cindy Stone, who's the Director of Office of Community Programs for the Division of Neighborhood Revitalization for the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development, and also James Castle, who is the project manager for the Dealman Inn feasibility study. And we had, I guess, a 2-hour discussion on Dealman Inn and also a tour of Dealman Inn, so that Cindy Stone was able to see it firsthand and have a little better idea of what we're facing. It's not going to be an easy road, but I think it is a travelable road that we can really successfully travel. There's some things that we need to do on our part, and the state is making a commitment. We haven't gotten that figure of a financial commitment yet. However, once we find, and I have an investor that's very interested, and once that individual comes up with a financial plan and a construction plan, then we'll take that to the state and we'll start moving forward. New Windsor Candidates Forum met with Vince Campanella, who was the moderator for the Candidates Forum, and worked on that a little bit. Also want to thank CMC, Community Media Center, for taping that, and thank everyone that participated in that. Community Development Block Grant Workshop I attended that outside of Annapolis about a month ago. And this is the grant that we applied for street repaving, and we'll put something in again. And hopefully we'll get something again this year. Carroll County Traffic Team meeting, I attend every other month is their meetings. And just a little update on that, Route 31 from Mefford Road to the town is to be repaved sometime after July 1st. So hopefully that'll happen shortly. Economic outlook, Onarabon Basu, who most of us, if we've been to MML, have heard. He's chairman and CEO of the SAGE Policy Group, gave an overview of the state's economic outlook. The Carroll County Economic Development Department puts that on every year. Urban Reconstruction Project, which used to be the Safety and Enhancement Project, which used to be the Streetscape Project. Frank and I met with Meredith Ledoux, who is the new project manager, and Lindsay Bobian, an engineer with State Highway Administration, to bring both of them up to date. They're new to the scene, but they caught on real well. They were well versed on most everything. And then Frank and I attended the monthly partnership meeting with State Highway Administration. Beautification Day was a huge success with the help of New Windsor citizen, Roy over here. Also, he'll give a little presentation, so I'm not going to steal too much of his thunder. But we had Comcast Cares, Boys and Girls Club of Westminster, Partnership for a Healthier Carroll County, and then folks from the town council and staff, and also some citizens from New Windsor. We had over 25 volunteers, which was a huge success and a huge help in not having 5 or 6 of us have to do all 3 parks. So we got a lot done. I want to thank Frank for organizing most of that, getting the tools and all the supplies. So we want to thank that. And also a special thanks to Westminster City Councilman Bob Wack, who was here. Dr. Wack came out on behalf of the Partnership for a Healthier Carroll County and did quite a good job for us. So, Chiefs of Police meeting, I attended that actually last week, and I was able to talk briefly with Sheriff DeWeese about the cost of the deputy program, see whether or not we can't trim that a little bit. And we've been in discussion, so he's doing everything he can to help us out financially. Lehigh Community Council meeting, been working with Lehigh Cement Company where they will give an update on the conveyor system, the road closures and detours, and the quarry operation. Been working with Vince Campanella in regards to that workshop, and it'll be tomorrow night at 7 o'clock down at Windsor Station at the fire hall. So they'll have several stations, folks from Lehigh, also from the company that is going to be the contractor, or is the contractor, and then folks from the emergency management people in this area, as well as the county, and I'll let Andy go into more depth in that. Walk with the Mayor has been successful. We add a few here and there, we lose a couple, but overall, every other Tuesday night, it'll be on our Facebook page, so in case you forget which Tuesday it is, but it'll be in 2 weeks from yesterday. I want to thank Roy for kind of spearheading that with us. And we walk about 1.5 miles to sometimes 3 miles, just depending on the crew that's there. But come on out and talk and meet your fellow neighbors. And if no one has any questions or comments, I have a letter to read. It's not one I really wanted to read, but I can fully understand, and I support the letter. Mayor and Town Council, it is with both regret and excitement that I write this letter. I have decided to retire at the end of June 26. 26 is in parentheses. It is with regret that I miss all my people in town and with excitement that I will be beginning a new phase of my life. I have enjoyed working for the town and shall miss all of you. Thank you for the experience, and I would not have missed it for anything. Sincerely, Roma B. Green. Now, I will confirm this tomorrow because the 26th is in parentheses, and I'm going to ask her whether that's June 26th of this year or June of 2026. So if that's the case, you know, we got plenty of time to hire somebody, but I'm afraid that it's 26th of June this year. So, you know, we go back and forth with that kind of stuff, Roman and I. She's always on me about getting my report in on the quarterly newsletter. I always tell her I emailed it and she lost it. So, if you see Roma, she's done an outstanding job for us in so many capacities. She is the voice of New Windsor. When people call, she's always got that pleasant voice and helpful individual, and she will be missed, but her years here have been greatly appreciated. So just bring that to your attention. And as 6 years as mayor, that is our first staff person to retire. So just for the rest of the staff, I'd like to keep that average at 1 every 6 years. Or longer. So, like I say, thank Roma for an outstanding job and wish her all the luck and best wishes for her future. And we already have the community deputy, West Carroll Rec Council, see no one. Fire Chief Tom Coe has family commitment tonight. Just wanted me to make sure everyone is aware of the New Windsor Fire Department's annual carnival from June 1st through the 6th, with the parade on the 3rd, Wednesday the 3rd at 7 p.m. sharp. So come out and support the fire department in so many ways. If you want to volunteer in the food stand, Wayne, I think they always have something for people to do. Wayne works there about, yeah, come on down, you got it. Lions Club, we man the ticket booth, and this year we're going to be selling soft pretzels. So if you'd like to help us, there's always opportunity there to help the fire department, and you're helping your community as well. And there's some great food, especially the world-famous crab cakes. Also, Chief Coe wanted me to make sure everybody was aware that the fire department, especially with his leadership, is on top of the road closures and detours that will be coming very shortly in the New Windsor and Union Bridge area. He has been working with Chief Chad Green very closely, along with Lehigh representatives and county representatives. So they actually have made several suggestions to Lehigh, and they've been very receptive to meeting those requests. Mainly that no more than one road, I believe it is, to be closed at one time. So that's very important on emergency response. Town Manager, tab 6, Frank?
If it's okay, Mayor, I would like to just stay here for tonight's report. We pretty well covered most everything that's in my report already, but just on the main line, water line base mapping, we did locate everything. There's one segment that we didn't get to yet, but we will this fall. It's all been we've staked it all, and it's all been surveyed, and we're waiting for those plats of the surveyed line, and that'll give us the base information then that we can go back and start to do some confirmatory deed work to get our easement to where it needs to be, because we think it's misaligned now because of the deeds and things are very old. The lagoon decommissioning, we made some good progress on that. We finally have come up with our cleanout and closure plan, and that's been submitted to MDE about 2 weeks ago. We anticipate a 4 to 6 week review. If that plan is accepted, the next step is preparation of bid documents. The idea is that we'll take off as much of the clear water from the top and run that through the UV and discharge it through the UV and the post aeration at the plant. Once we get down to a level where we start to pick up some of the sludge, then we'll stop that process and use a system to just pump it and haul it and then land apply it. and that'll be the closure plan. And hopefully, we'll end up with a cleaned-out lagoon, and we also will then have a method to discharge any rainwater that comes in so that we don't fill it up again and have to deal with it again. So hopefully, we'll have a acceptance of our plan in 4 to 6 weeks, and then we can start the bid documents. The mayor already covered the State Highway Streetscape meetings. We did tour and show them the storm drain system and show them the difficulty it will be trying to just utilize our system as a conveyance for the stormwater coming off the state highway. So I think they got a good idea of that. Councilman already covered the pump station replacement. It is on schedule for a September completion. We do have a few small change orders, one that involves some safety bars on the door. We want to use a different type of bar than what was spec'd. And then there's a little bit of regrading we want to do at one of the stations because it left us with a very steep parking area. We want to regrade that a little bit. So we will have a change order there. The Tibbetts Lane Sewer Feasibility Study is on the agenda for discussion later, so I won't go into that. The Verizon antenna installation, the lease agreements have been circulated to a Verizon, and they're on my desk waiting for the mayor's signature, which will come once we have the engineer drawings approved. We're down to the final nuts and bolts on that. Verizon folks were on site Friday to once again look at the site, but I think within the next few weeks we'll have that worked out. The water meter upgrade, we've received all the computer equipment and that we need for the radios. We've gotten our, as you may remember, we bought an introductory package that had the computer that does the reading and all that equipment, plus 24 of the transponders and 24 meters. So we've received all that, and we'll begin deployment of those transponders this month, and that'll be complete in time for the next reading. The first group we're going to deploy will be on up at New Windsor Vista because there's 6 homes there, and we can cover that whole development, and anything new that goes in there we'll have the new radio frequency. Any place in town where we've installed a new pit with a new meter style in it, we're going to put them there, and then the rest will place where we find it most strategically advantageous. And as you may recall, as I discussed earlier, we have $77,000 budgeted to blanket the rest of the town as follow-up. So maybe by the end of the calendar year, the whole town will be converted to the radio frequency, which will be good.
Which will cut down the
It'll
amount
cut
of
down our
time.
reading time from 3 days to less than a day. Because literally, if you were in the right location, you could read every meter within, just an hour, a few minutes. All it takes is the time for the signal to alert the transponder to reply to you, and then, which all happens with computers almost instantaneously. Yeah, so it'll be quite an advancement. Yard trim pickup, I believe the councilman already covered that. I would just say that we got 3 guys mowing, and they're going full tilt. They have some other time, but at this time of year, those 3 mowers go pretty much all day long. POS projects, 2 points on that. We are very close. We are close to finalizing our submittal for the Lions Field improvements, and those will include a new retaining wall behind the backstop, repairs to the fences, the backstops, the bleachers, trimming of the trees all around the field, and some field maintenance. So we'll be submitting that, the final. There's a step in there we have to, where we submit the details of what we're going to do and get that approved. So we're just about ready to do that. A new project request may be submitted until May 22nd, so we want to get a new project in. Right now, the project I have in mind is to install a rubberized surface, just like we have at the Lions Field up at the Atlee Tot Lot. A few years ago, we did an upgrade to that. We installed what's called engineered wood fiber. We're now at the point where that needs to be replaced. If we're going to replace it, let's try and upgrade to the rubberized surface. We'll see how that flies. So that's the information I have in my report. I don't know if there's any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Frank. No, go ahead.
Question. I just thought of this afternoon. Down at the 7-Eleven, the company that's doing the groundwater monitoring.
Right.
Have we received any updated report? Do we know what the timeline is of how long they're going to be there?
We do get semi-annual reporting on that. The timeline on that, indefinite. I mean, it's not until they get some sort of clear readings on that. They'll still be sampling and reporting on that.
Well, my concern is the fence that they put up around that trailer causes some sight distance or sight problems if you're coming to the stop sign on Church Street.
Okay. The only reason I smile was I had someone else complain about the fence saying it wasn't high enough and didn't shield the visibility of the equipment there. So I haven't noticed it being a sight distance problem, but I'll take a look at it from that perspective.
I just wondered if the state highway might have any concerns about that in terms of,
None of them mentioned to
Okay.
me.
thank you.
All right. Lehigh update, Andy?
Thank you, Mayor and Councilman. Nice to meet everybody. My name is Andy Regular with Lehigh Cement. Been there 22 years. I'm the safety manager at the plant, but I'm also the safety manager for the conveyor and quarry development project that will be starting next week and be going on for around 3 years. I live at 1318 New Windsor Road, so the first house on the right as you go out of town. So I consider myself a resident, even though I guess technically I'm not.
We make you honorary one, how's that?
I appreciate it. I'll take my plaque next month. Maybe a year. As Mayor mentioned, we did have community council meeting last week. Some people were in attendance and most of the council, so we appreciate your availability and we hope that you've seen a lot of information that you like. As a reminder, the town hall is tomorrow, 7 to 9, over at the fire hall in the lower level. During the town hall, our intention is to have an exact mirror of the first town hall that we had. Several stations throughout the room, and the stations will be more or less to describe, example, a detour plan. This station would be emergency response. This station would be the conveyor path, and so on and so on and so on. So I just jotted down some quick ideas. So detour plans, timeline, duration of, say, road closures, so you can understand how long the road would be closed. The contractor, which I'll touch on again, emergency management, quarry development itself, the physical quarry and when that will start to develop and the timeline for each phase of that, and the conveyor path, which I mentioned. The general contractor is JB Fay. Their home office is out of Pittsburgh, which we don't hold that against them. Their local office is out of Glen Burnie. So their general superintendent lives in Tawnytown. So they consider themselves a local contractor. They will be hiring, or they do have a subcontractor that is local that'll be doing work for them as well. That is Taggart. JB Fay is a large general contractor, and from my personal perspective in dealing with them over that week that we've been introduced to each other, very reputable, very professional company, and they appreciate the community that they're going to be working in. They did mention that they will be having jobs available. They're looking at potentially 50 to 100 jobs available during this 3-year project that they intend to hire local people. So if you know somebody that knows how to run equipment or is a good laborer, keep your eyes open. And if you have that opportunity, come to the town hall tomorrow. They will have their own specific booth to introduce themselves to the community and also be there with applications. So if anybody wants an application, it's a perfect opportunity. White Pine Construction is a local company just out of Finksburg. They will start phase 1 of the quarry development Monday, this coming Monday. That work will be pretty much kind of behind my house. If you know where my house is, coming up New Windsor Road, and the pine trees in my backyard, the majority of their work is going to be right behind those pine trees. They have a large sediment control pond, stormwater pond to put in that area there where the rancher is that we own on Feather Lane. Just to the north, or I'm sorry, to the south of that rancher, there'll be a 2-acre sediment pond. Drainage will be throughout the fields behind my house. That's phase one that they had to do, and it's about a 3 or 4 month project. We mentioned during the community council meeting that we anticipate at most maybe one blast that will have to go off, and it's right behind my house, where there is some bedrock that they have to remove to be able to put the riprap stream that carries the water into this pond. So it is my responsibility, as well as the projects, to communicate that to the town, the council, and to the community when that will occur. The work will only be done during day shift, daylight hours. So you don't have to worry about midnight or anything like that with the house shaking or anything. That being said, our intention is to create a webpage specific for this job. It'll be the New Windsor Union Bridge Project webpage. It'll have some title to it. Jeff Hook, if you know Jeff Hook, is in the process of creating that webpage. The New Windsor Town's webpage will have a link directly to our webpage, and our webpage will have up-to-date, as fast as we can put it on there, postings on where we are with the project. Where we are, where we intend to be in the next week, in the next month, in the next 3 months. We'll have a timeline that will try to be as accurate as possible so you as a community are involved. There will be opportunities for you to make comments in there. There will be a list of names if you need to reach out to someone. There will be phone numbers, there will be email addresses. We will put videos, we'll put pictures on there. We have a drone at the plant that we use, and we can fly that thing from Union Bridge to New Windsor, and we will fly the conveyor path as we need to, and shoot footage of the construction and post that on there for a couple reasons. One, to inform you. Two, so people don't get too interested that they have to go out there and see what's going on. Then I have to talk to you and ask you to leave. So we really intend to communicate as best we can with the community by a web page and having more meetings as well. You may have noticed if you're around town during the day, the last 2 days, there's been a lot of police activity down here by the fire hall. The SWAT vehicles have been down here. They reached out to Lehigh to use the house on Feather Lane as some training opportunities. Carroll County SWAT team did. They joined up with Baltimore County SWAT team. Baltimore County is a full-time SWAT team service. Carroll County is part-time, if you will. So they really look for a lot of opportunities to do training. They don't get a lot of opportunities that they can go into a house and practice breaching, blowing a door off the hinges and those types of things. The last 2 days, they've been able to meet down here at the fire hall and then go out to the house on Feather Lane. So if you've seen a kind of a carpool going through town with a big SWAT vehicle, there's nothing going on other than some training. So their intention is to go again tomorrow, which will be Thursday. Is that right?
Mhm.
I work 7 days a week. And maybe a couple days next week, maybe. So if you see them, again, it's just some training exercises. And, my apologies to Mayor Roop and the town. My intention was to have a week's notice from the SWAT team and let Mayor Roop know, and you could post it on the webpage, but they called me and said, we're going to be there in 15 minutes. So I apologize for that. After the SWAT team is done, that house is intended to be removed for the sediment control pond. So New Windsor Fire Hall is also going to be given the opportunity to do some training out there. They're going to train on burning that house down, not train on burning it down, but train on firefighting as the house burns down. So again, we will post that on the webpage. Matter of fact, Tom called me tonight and said, when can I do it? So it's going to be, I'll say within 2 or 3 weeks, that house will be burnt. Then White Pine will remove the rest of it. 9 wells we just drilled in the quarry property, mainly on this north end. They were required by state and local. They're monitoring wells. They will be tested weekly for quality and quantity. And we're happy that they're finished. We apologize if there's any convenience to the town for the noise and dust. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Good.
No, I'd just like for you to relay to Kent Martin, the plant manager, that I greatly appreciate whenever I ask him to have a community meeting like the last one, and especially this one, to give the citizens of New Windsor and surrounding area as well the opportunity to come and find out exactly what's going on. Lehigh's have been very open. They answer everybody's questions fully, openly. So I greatly appreciate this work session or the workshop tomorrow night. So thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
And also, as far as trying to get the message out there, I also offered for Lehigh to have an update in our quarterly newsletter, along with a projected plan of the next 3 months, so the citizens of New Windsor will know what's going on. So, thank you. Volunteer Beautification Day presentation, Roy Libden. You're on.
You just push the arrows and it'll go. Or it should, anyway.
My name is Roy Libden, I work for the Partnership for African Accounting, and as Mayor Roop had already said, that I am a resident of Windsor, have been a resident for the past 20 years. And so I get to do the fun part, the highlight, the things that are cool. So if I may, 5 minutes of your attention on the beautification day. And one of the things that I've observed in regards to the beautification day, it actually incorporated 5 main key ingredients. Even before I do that, let me say this. There is a popular phrase from a TV series and a movie called The A-Team. You guys familiar with A-Team? Ever seen that? And the phrase goes, I love it when a plan comes together. I love it when a plan comes together. The plan that came together for us is the New Windsor Volunteer Beautification Day. Okay? And I observed that there were 3 basic key ingredients in making that successful. One was a pinch of initiative to inspire. And I'll explain a little bit about each one of these in a minute. Scoops of dates and time. Play on words, if you will. Fusion of generous partners. Liberal sprinkles of playful spirits and willing hearts. Essence of trust. If you think about it, in trying to build a relationship, it incorporates a lot of these 5 key ingredients, does it not? Okay, let me say something a little bit about pinch of initiative to inspire. And let me do that by showing you the next slide, if I will. Okay. We began the planning for the New Windsor Volunteer Beautification Day with our initiative, which is the Walk Carol, the Walk with Mayor, every Tuesday night. Back in the office, we were planning, what if we presented this initiative called Walk Carol to a particular place, and why don't we begin in our own backyard, right? So I live in New Windsor, why not present it to New Windsor? As with all things, you know, all plans begin with some sort of idea. So we batted those ideas around back and forth. So our first meeting, my first meeting was with Frank and Neal back in November of 2014. I then had a meeting with you folks back in January of 2015, and 2 more meetings with Ed. And ever since then, we've had numerous emails, numerous conversations, etc. And if I may just put a plug for the Walk Carol. You probably have seen Neal and I, some of the council members here, Dave, walking around town. It's been fun. And let me tell you something. I've done a couple of things about Neal, one thing about Neal, and one thing about Dave. I now know where Neal used to live growing up as a boy. That's one thing I learned in my walks. And Dave is a collector of old, no, strike that from the record, it's not old, it's vintage beer cans. Vintage beer cans. And we now have a mascot, Shelby. All right? So those are the things that you can learn like walking with your neighbors. So I encourage you, every other Tuesday, please come and walk with us. And by the way, this is the picture of our first Walk Carol event with the mayor. That was back in January, I believe. And ever since then, we've been walking every other Tuesday. My hat is goes off to you, Mayor Neal. We're not missing a single event. So Congratulations.
Thank you.
Also, Doc Fox was another person that
Yep.
never missed the day. Okay, so the other component, another key ingredient, aside from initiatives and scoops of time and date, is this generous donation of time from the partnerships that brought this beautification day possible. We have Comcast Cares, as you had mentioned, of course, the town of New Windsor, the partnership, Boys Club, and Girls Club. And obviously, without these generous donors, this would not have happened. So I certainly applaud the time and the effort that have come together to make this happen. And here's some really cool pics. The day began with our time in front of the town hall, Neal kicking us off, dividing us into groups, if you will. We actually had 4 work crews, didn't we? One was to paint the inlet drains at the Alley Ridge subdivision. The second was to do some re-landscaping and plant trees at the Alley walking path. The third was a landscaping crew to manage and plant flowers, trees, flowers and shrubs at the memorial site, right? And
War
also
Memorial.
one was the gazebo. So we had spent from 8 o'clock in the morning until 12 noon doing this project. Essentially, how many of you have had an opportunity to actually walk the Atlee walking path? Okay, great. And you know that this picture up here on the upper right-hand corner was what it looked like before we actually took the team there to work at this project. And here is obviously a picture of the inlet. And again,
About a quarter mile
the
down,
team
about-
there and painted these inlet drains.
Quarter mile down.
These are some of the volunteers that actually were part of that.
On the alley where the pumping station is there on the right.
Were part of that Atlee Bridge.
That's right.
Of course, the folks at the Alley Ridge subdivision, and there's Robert Wack with his wife, Lisa Wack, with the shirt, right? Local Wack. And here is a winning smile, a thumbs up from one of the kids that volunteered that day. I'm pretty sure we got his parents to sign off on this picture. But this is what the product is. All right? So we planted a few trees. That is what the Atlee walking path looks like now, the area where the butterfly boxes are. And the cool paint job that the team had done at the Alley Ridge subdivision for the plants. So really, just an opportunity, just a day to have just a great time to help out for a good cause. And really, I just want to say thank you again for the town of New Windsor and Neal helping us put this together.
Well, thank you, and it's great to see somebody that came out, stepped up to the plate, offered their services, their time to volunteer, and it shows how proud you are. So we makes us feel good. So thank you. Thank you. Any residents' concerns?
No.
Anybody have anything? All right. Old business, any old business? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll go to new business. Fiscal year 2016 budget, discussion for consideration of adoption, which would be ordinance number, I'm sorry, let's go back in time here. I checked her off too soon, sorry. Treasurer report, tab 7.
Waiting for you to
The
notice
most
that.
important,
They don't want to hear the boring numbers.
as long as we have money.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the budget.
I'll be brief. General fund, at the end of April, I'm just gonna give balances. We're working with $117,417.74 balance in the general fund. Enterprise fund, we have $93,062.46 as of April 30th. And our, excuse me, on our enterprise side, capital fund, we have $316,764.12. Loan repayment fund is at $55,141.41. Money market is at $16,479.61. And our lagoon remediation fund is at $595,050.09. and we are paying the installments, excuse me, for the Cohen Main project out of that fund for now. We will be reimbursed. Election, very important, next Tuesday, here, 7 o'clock to 8 p.m. We have 3 council seats open, and 5 candidates are running, so it's very important that you come out, show your support for them. You can, if you are unable to vote in person, you can still request an absentee ballot, and the deadline for returning them would be May the 11th at 3 p.m. Election certification results will be by May the 14th. And our real property in town, we currently have 29 properties that are in the following statuses. 17 for sale, 4 that are foreclosed, 3 in pre-foreclosure, and 5 going to auction. So that's a lot for a small town like us. Any questions?
Thank you, Donna. My apologies for overlooking that.
That's okay.
Okay, back to discussion on fiscal year 2016 budget. Consider adopting ordinance number 04-01-15. Do I hear any discussion? Do I hear a motion to adopt ordinance number 04-01-15?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Councilman Huffman to adopt ordinance number 04-01-15, which was seconded by Councilwoman Schultz. Any discussion or comments, questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, so carried. Tibbetts Industrial Park feasibility study.
Okay, if you look,
Tab 9.
yeah, if you go to tab 9, I'm going to do a brief PowerPoint on it. I have copies of the full report, but there is the methodology that they use to establish the cost of the plant expansion. I reviewed that, and I'm not happy with it. I basically changed that number. So I don't want to give you that report because that messes up all the numbers on the analysis. It doesn't change the overall analysis, but I don't want to have that report out there with wrong numbers in it. But it's a very extensive report. It goes into all the environmental issues. It compares the issues that might be encountered in construction, the types of things that they have to accomplish, and compares three different alternatives. So I'm just going to give you a brief summary of what's in this report. And it'll be on the PowerPoint as well.
If I can, Frank, right before you go ahead and get prepared there, but Tibbetts Sewer Extension Feasibility Study, I had requested, I guess this, and the council approved it, to take a look at extending our sewer system out to Tibbetts Lane so that we could possibly expand industrial growth out there, which hopefully would increase our tax base and possibly allow us to have a better budget and possibly even down the road lower taxes. But without sewer, we cannot expand out there. One company wanted to expand, however, by the state and county regulations, they would have had to use most of the land for septic systems, and that was, not only cost prohibitive, but it took up all their land for their expansion. So, so that's where we got the idea to have this, to see what it would cost. One of the ideas that Frank will go into, we had talked years ago. Jack actually had started conversations probably 10 years ago, if not longer, with Maryland Midland Railroad to see about running sewer line, which could be not all gravity flow, but it's a lot gravity flow from Tibbetts Lane into the sewer system on Cove Drive. At that time, it was cost prohibitive. They wanted so much per foot. Then Lehigh owned part of the railroad at one time, and they were going to allow us to run the line at no cost per foot. So, and then the other option is to come up Route 31. So Frank will have all that in more detail.
All right, so Mayor gave you a pretty good historical background. The study itself, we evaluated serving 264 acres. That comes out to a flow of 120,000 gallons per day. We would anticipate, if everything's developed fully, that there'd be 685 equivalent dwelling units or EDUs created. That's the most optimistic. Generally, these things don't come out to that high a level, so you probably work back to some number, but for a starting point, we anticipate 265 EDUs. 3 options were evaluated. 2 of them are to bring the sewer line along Route 31 and empty it into the Blue Ridge Pump Station, which everyone probably is familiar with as you come into town. It's on the right. The 2 options on that, one would be to be force main driven by pump to the top of the hill and then allow it to be gravity from there on. And the other option on that is to have it be force main driven by pump all the way to the actual pump station. The other option is to have to go by gravity main along the railroad to the Co-Drive station, where it would then be pumped over to the Main Street station, and then be repumped to the wastewater treatment plant. All the options require the pump stations to be upgraded. So if we take it to Blue Ridge, we have to upgrade Blue Ridge Station. If we take it to Co and Main Street, both of those stations need to be upgraded. In addition, if we go to Co, the force main from Co to the top of the hill there at Maple would need to be upgraded. It's not very long, but it would need to be upgraded. All the options require us to expand the wastewater treatment plant. And the options run from $8.15 million to $9.78 million. So that's the range on what the options cost. To show you what's to be served, the sort of orangish, reddish color at the top, that's mostly residential area going down Old New Windsor Road, mostly existing houses, maybe small amount to be developed yet. The blue or grayish area, that's our industrial zoned land, designated land, and that is all already included in our service area. The green is what's called the orchard property. That's some land that's owned mostly by Balkers, a little piece by someone else out there that is not currently in our service area, but was included in the study as a possible additional area. This happens to be the force main alignment, and I'm going to just walk up and point at it on the screen, if I may. This would start with a pumping station here. We have to put a pumping station in regardless of the option, because at some point we have to get the flow to the lowest point and then start from there. So a pumping station would be here, go along Route 31, and then either at this point go gravity down to Blue Ridge or continue by force main. So you can think of it just running along Route 31 from out near Tibbetts Lane all the way in. That's the 31 option. This is the gravity option along the railroad. Again, to make a collection system that would actually collect all the sewerage flow from this area and this area, would all flow to a pumping station here, and then be pumped to a point over here where it could then gravity flow down along the railroad to Co-Drive. And each one of these little dots is a
Manhole.
because you have to have a manhole every so many feet to service your line. So those are the 2 options. The thing you need to understand is that both of them start with a pumping station, a much smaller one with the gravity flow, because you only have to push the effluent a little ways, as opposed to one where you have to push it all the way up 31. So but they both start with a pumping station in order to get them to work. Now, this is the page that'll probably make you go to sleep, but we'll have to run through it anyway. Here are the three options, 1A, 1B, and 2. And the very first line, which is pump station lines and manholes, that shows you what each option, just the option costs. So you can see that the least expensive is 1B, which is to take a force main all the way to Blue Ridge. The second is the force main with the gravity line, and then the third is option 2, which is the gravity line all the way along the railroad. And that's really largely due, you run into a lot of environmental considerations, which make the constructability a little more difficult. There's a number of environmental issues. That next block, where I have labeled as system upgrades, you can see what the estimates are to upgrade Blue Ridge Station. You can see what the estimates are to upgrade Co., the Force Main, and the Main Street pump stations. So you can see there's comparatively, we're going to have to spend like $600,000 one way, close to $1 million the other way to, in system upgrades. And then the final upgrade is the treatment plant upgrade, which I have at nearly $3.5 million. And you essentially have to double the size of the plant from 0.115 to 0.230, which is, some of that's anticipated. I mean, some of the elements of the plan have already been sized for that, but still you'd have to put in some other elements. So total those up, and you can see the bottom lines of $8.5 million for option 1A, 8.1 for 1B, and 9.7, 9.8 for 2. So that's the numbers. This is a table, it's right out of the report. It's kind of an inverse. The lower you are, the better. This is the constructability matrix. So the lower you are, the better. So constructability is the one I was telling you about. When you look at the constructability, the 1B, which is the force main all the way, is the most easily constructible, whereas alternate 2, with all the environmental issues that you run into, goes up. It's the least, has the most constraints for constructability, which also relates to more permitting costs because of the environmental issues. So that really is one of the things that really drives that up. So, but their ranking, you can see how they ranked them out. Lower is better. So 4.7 is the 1B, 6.3 is the 1A, and 8.5 is the 2, which is also also corresponds with the costs. So, I mean, the cost is only one element, but in this scenario, constructability matrix and the cost match up. This is just this is a real rudimentary fiscal analysis with a break-even point. And I told you in the get-go we had 685 EDUs if we maxed out on this thing. So if you take a look at our current connection charge for sewer, 6571. If you run that through, we would collect about $4.5 million in connection fees at our current connection fee. Now, our connection fee is has an escalator on it. So I would remind you that the water line that goes out there, I don't know when that was constructed, but we haven't recovered the cost on that yet. We still have another 10 or 12 units that we're going to have to go to recover the cost. So you're looking at a long payback period. 20 years would not be out of the realm. But in any case, we would have connection charges of $4.5 million. I just used a round number of $9 million for the project costs for purposes of our sort of rudimentary analysis, which means you'd have a deficit of about $4.5 million on your connection charges. And your connection charges are supposed to pay for your capital project. So let's work that the other way. What would our connection charge have to be to break even? What would be our break-even point? So you just take 9 million, you work your 685 into that, and you come up with a $13,000 connection fee, basically double what we have now. So it's a challenge. You really have to have someone that was really willing to wait to recover their costs. But it's good information to know, because if you ever want to do anything, if you ever want to present it to somebody, you have to be able to lay it out. And they would figure it out pretty quick themselves, but you got to be upfront about it. So, like I said, the report has a lot more information in it, but I did not want to get that report out there until I was satisfied the numbers were a little better.
Those EDUs, are they figured by state?
No.
How did you come up with those?
Our local EDU is 15,000 gallons per quarter, which equates to 165 gallons per day. Our EDU, the gallons, the state says you should be using 250.
50, right.
Nobody uses 250.
That comes out to about 22 to 23,000 gallons a quarter.
Yeah, I've been watching that for some time, and we are under 15,000 gallons for our EDUs. So 165 gallons a day, roughly 15,000 gallons a quarter. That's the number I use. So it gets you more EDUs, really, because if you go the other way, and then your connection charge just has to go up.
Right.
Because you got to come up with the same amount of money.
Right.
But no one in reality uses 250.
Now, just clarification on Balker's Orchard. That was just land that we were
We just included.
looking at. We included, there's no discussions with Balker's or any commitment on their part or anything that
Yeah. And what that does to you,
potential land.
take that out, that makes your equation that much more.
Sure.
Difficult, because that's $1 million in connection fees. So you take that out, but your costs don't go down any
Right.
when you do that.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, the only way it's going to happen is if the state or the federal government throws some money at it for economic development.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you can't do one without the other.
yeah, this strictly looks at it from the perspective of our utility operations. There's a whole nother thing where you look at the wages and the taxes and that multiplier effect, and that analysis goes way beyond anything I, can do for you just right now. But so yeah, there is that. If you had a job creator, and then you looked at the property tax that might be generated from that job creator, and the income tax that might be generated from that job creator, and the multiplier effect, yeah. And economic development has models that they can run to do that. But this was strictly looking at it from the aspect of our little fiscal operation as it relates to our utility enterprise fund.
We couldn't do anything until we had this done.
Yeah.
And, this is one of the few places in the county that has rail-side access, an industrial park. So, I mean, you would think that that has some value somewhere.
It has access to a rail, has access to a state highway. And so it's not, but what it doesn't have is public sewer, and as the mayor pointed out, the requirements on private septic systems or individual septic systems they're just enormous. So you take a 10-acre piece, you might have 8 acres in your septic system and 2 acres you can use. I mean, it's literally that bad. It's not like 50-50 even. It goes
These
way.
EDUs, how many of them are homes and how many are industrial?
Well, EDU is a term where you relate to, an EDU is equivalent to one residence, okay? So an EDU is a term that you use to multiply by. On that, only 40 of those are residences. That second line which says existing residential parcels, there's only 40, and most of them are existing. So those folks would have to have failing septic systems or wells or something, or contaminated wells before they'd even want to come in, because why would you want to pay the town a whole bunch of money? And so it's only 40, but the EDU is basically just a way to measure it against, a big industrial time is like, maybe they're equal to 100 houses. So we call that an EDU. That's what the term is, so.
Thank you.
Yep, at least we know
Yeah, we have
what it
good-
could cost.
It's good information.
And have we had discussions with funding this study with the county?
Well, yeah, there was some agreement that they would pay for it, but
We'll continue those discussions. Thank you, Frank. At least we have a base to go by. No commitment or anything. Anybody have any other new business?
It's a horrible number.
All right, announcements. Get your calendars out. June meeting, due to the fact that June 3rd, our normal meeting date, is going to be the parade. We will push it back to June 10th with no work session on the 15th, due to the fact that that is the joint county with Frederick County MML chapter meeting down in Mount Airy, so we will attend that. July meeting, due to the fact that July 1st is our normal meeting, but so that we don't have to rush back from the MML,
That was a mess last.
yeah, MML convention, we will push it back to July 20th, which would have been our work session. So we'll have both there, so both those meetings may be a little bit longer, depending on what we have going on, of course. And the election is next Tuesday, May 12th, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's your civic duty and your responsibility. This is your town. Be proud of it. Support those candidates that you choose. You have almost a week to touch base with them to get their opinions and vision of the town of New Windsor. This is your town, so get out and vote and do the patriotic thing. Many veterans, some are here tonight, served our country so that we have the freedom and the right to vote. So show honor to what they have done and come out and vote. Do I hear anything else? If not, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor, signifying by saying aye.
Aye.
So carried. Thank you for coming out.